Here's a segment from a recent Gun Talk Radio episode. You can listen to all the Gun Talk Radio podcasts however you tune in, or check out guntalk.com for more. Joining me now is an old friend. He is a true journalist who specializes in guns and gun rights. He's also a shooter, holster maker, and done all sorts of other stuff out there when it comes to guns, hunting, and everything else. Dave Workman joins me right now. How are you, my friend?
Well, I'm fine, Tom, and this time you didn't find me on the top of a mountain someplace.
we did kind of call you, okay, I will admit, we called you and found you at the top of a mountain when you're hunting, but that's on me. What's on you is that you actually answered your phone while you were hunting, and then we did the whole interview.
Well, I'm stupid. What's your excuse?
I'm with stupid. How's that?
Well, that's fine. Good to talk to you again, amigo. It really is. It's been a long time.
Absolutely. I do love reading your work. You are a true journalist. You go find the stories, and also you find what's out there and then make comments on them and help put things into perspective when things are going on. And then the first one I want to talk about is this study that just came out that has some, I thought, fairly impressive and even to the point of being startling information about who owns guns and defensive use of guns. You want to tackle that one?
Well, yeah, the study I'm looking at, and in fact, I've got a copy in my lap here. A guy named William English, he's a PhD at Georgetown, did a draft report actually back in July on this subject, and only recently did it seem to pop up in the headlines. And so I dug into it a little bit, and one of the things that jumped off the page, 23 pages at me, it says about a third of adults in the United States report owning a firearm. Comes up to about 81.4 million adult gun owners. But he also said something that's really interesting in here, and I'll quote this. One of the challenges in asking questions about firearms is eliciting truthful responses from firearms owners who may be hesitant to reveal information about practices that are associated with public controversy. In other words, the gun owners think, hey, it's none of your business what I own.
Yep. And we've known that. People are reluctant to give answers to people who are doing surveys about their guns, what they own, and what they do with them.
Yeah, and as you see in the column I wrote, there's an interesting breakdown of the demographics here. 57.8% of gun owners are male. 42.2% are female. Now, I want the Democrats to pay attention to that a little bit, because a lot of people who own guns actually vote for their party, and I think we know for a fact that there's nothing wrong with anybody, either side of the political aisle, if they believe in the Second Amendment, they're friends of mine. And
absolutely.
The idea that you've got such a high rate of firearms ownership, I think demonstrates once again something that I know you've been saying and I've been saying for years, is that women are the fastest growing segment of the firearms community out there. And that should not surprise anybody, especially now with all the reductions in police and let's defund the police and longer response times. And I get that. I understand where the women are coming from on this. They want to take responsibility for their own safety. Good for them.
One of the things about this survey is it's so much larger than what we have seen in the past. Usually a survey is done with, 5,000 people or fewer. And this thing, they surveyed like 54,000 people, which should give you a much better statistical result.
Well, yeah, the responding firearms owners, according to the English report, 15,450 out of all the people that they contacted, they got 15,450 to go through the entire survey. Now, I've never heard of a survey that big. And it's just remarkable the work that went into this. And my hat's off to anybody who does a survey like this, because it really is pretty much beyond refute. There's no way I think that somebody can chime in. It's that's hogwash. That was done. We're going to discredit that, and that's a favorite ploy of people who are in the anti-gun community. Almost before the ink is dry, they start screaming, "Oh, that's been refuted already. It's been discredited." And I don't think you can do this, and not with this survey. It's
one of the things that came out that jumped in to me is that with this being responders, and we've seen the results in the past where people have said, well, how many people have used guns as self-defense? Anywhere from like 108,000, in crime victimization survey, and up to 3 million, depending on who's doing it. But this huge survey, they come in with a number of 1.6 million a year. You extrapolate that out and say it could be 2.8 million a year. That's kind of crazy.
Well, it doesn't surprise me either. You and I have both, I know, been reading the American Rifleman for decades, and one of the most popular section in that magazine or in the American Hunter is the armed citizen. And I think you've seen where most of the incidents that are described in there, a shot is never fired, and that's something else that comes out in this. In most cases, 81.9% of these defensive firearms uses, a gun is not fired, and good for them.
Well, and what that also means is it probably never showed up in a police report or in the newspapers.
Well, that's pretty much true. If it doesn't bleed, it doesn't lead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm sorry, that's where the news business has gone. But 31.1% of gun owners, or approximately 25.3 million adult Americans, according to this survey, have used a gun in self-defense.
Wait, say that again. Say that again.
31.1% of gun owners, or approximately 25.3 million adult Americans, have used a gun in self-defense. That's what the survey says.
We have known that for years, and we've had the Kleck studies and the John Lott studies, and the other studies that have been done that verified that. And they always get poo-pooed, and they say, well, it's a small sample size, or it was this, or it was that. This is a huge study by a professor at Georgetown saying that. And it goes back to most of the time you point a gun at somebody and they run away, mission accomplished. You didn't have to shoot them, but you did, in fact, actually really, truly defend yourself.
Yeah, that's really what is being said here. And as you note, people are saying, well, you take a small sampling, we can discredit that. This is a huge sampling of the American public. And as I said earlier, I don't see how anybody could jump in there and refute this and say it's all hogwash. It just, the stuff that you read in here is, pretty close to what I think would result from any study of this size. I don't think there's ever been a study of this size done before, so good for Professor English.
So as we look at this, we've got 42% of gun owners are female. We know that actually more than half of new gun owners, or first-time gun owners, are female. And now we have this new demographic. We have a lot of new first-time gun owners, people who are buying their first gun, who are black, who are Asian, who are Hispanic, who are groups that, frankly, the Democrats have taken for granted as being their group, women, minorities, and who would support gun control. As they buy self-defense guns, as they have now moved from thinking of gun owners as those people to now they are us people, how could that change the dynamic when it comes to the gun control issue?
Well, I think something that I found out when I did a story, I don't know, about 6 or 7 months ago, maybe a little bit longer, I talk to gun dealers across the country. From as far away Washington State to down in Florida, I talked to one or two guys down there. Mm-hmm. And there were some other stories about this, too. And the one thing that seemed to ring true with all of the people I talked to was that a lot of brand new first-time gun owners who walked into their shop, Joe's gun shop here or there, they didn't realize that they couldn't take home their handgun the same day that they paid for it. They had to go through a background check. They had to go through a waiting period in some states. It opened up a lot of eyes. And I think, frankly, that's going to carry over into some new realizations for by some estimates, 7 to 8 million people, because they suddenly discovered that guns aren't that really easily accessible. You can't just go in and buy a gun and then walk out the same day.
Well, what they discovered is that they had been lied to about quote unquote easy access to guns. It's easier to buy a teddy bear than it is a gun. Really? I have never had the FBI do a background check on me before I could buy a teddy bear. And these people have run smack into the reality of this is now what it takes. You have to fill out this form. Lying on the form is a federal felony. And now we're going to phone this in to the FBI, and they're going to tell us whether or not you can buy this gun. And then there may be some additional regulations and restrictions based on the city or the state where you are. And I heard the same things. The gun stores are saying. These people are going, well, what do you mean? I mean, I don't have to do that. I mean, just buy a gun. I'm a good person. I just want. I'm sorry. This is what gun control looks like. This is the stuff you've been told doesn't exist. Now you see it does.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's a fair point to make, and a lot of people who bought guns for the very first time in the past year and a half, since it really started with the outbreak of the COVID pandemic, and then it went through where we had all the public disturbances over the George Floyd incident in Minneapolis, and reductions in police and inability of police to respond in a timely. The police are not going to come to the rescue all the time, and I think a lot of people are starting to realize that. They're understanding that, hey, I'm responsible for my own well-being and that of my family. I got to take care of myself. And you know what? They fall back on that rotten old Second Amendment every time.
Hey, Dave Workman, where can people read your writing if they want to keep up with what you're doing? Because I would recommend that they do that.
Well, it's very kind of you. Of course, I'm the editor at thegunmag.com, which used to be Gun Week. And you can read me at Liberty Park Press, AmmoLand, Conservative Firing Line, American Handgunner Online, Insider Online. So I'm in a lot of places.
Just search for Dave Workman. You'll find him out there. Dave, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Oh, you betcha, Tom. Nice chatting with you.
All righty. You take care.